Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. Coming up, how young girls in southern Nigeria are viewed as being worth no more than cattle or property. We meet those fighting to stop little girls from being sold off into marriage. Also, abortion rights continue to be under siege in America. We'll be talking to Washington-based Politico reporter Ollstein about the toll the battle is taking, not just on reproductive rights, but also those campaigning for them. And the Indian theatre group who are determined to challenge beauty norms in the country that brought us Bollywood. But we begin in Nigeria, which, according to UN figures, has the largest number of child brides in Africa. For many, what they experience as a child bride is nothing short of modern-day slavery. In parts of the south, there's been a long-held tradition of selling off young girls into marriage for money. It's a practice that some are now trying to bring to an end, as Anna Cunningham reports.
Rose lost her childhood, aged 12, married off to an older man in exchange for money. She was enslaved, kept to work the fields day in, day out, raped and beaten. She miscarried twice. Her escape came when washing clothes by the river. She ran and never returned.
I'm angry because it was not my age, and it's not my age. I'm a small girl. I'll go and marry somebody that crossed 60 years.
Aged 20, Rose is now a mother. Her child's father is someone she chose and fell for. But in the community, she will always be known as a money wife, something her child's father could not cope with, and he left. It was Rose's mother who sold her off in exchange for €100.
I said that because of my mother burial. Why they worry from my own side, like me woman.
It's here, in these poor communities, deep in the heart of Cross River State, that missionary Pastor Richards has been working, trying to bring an end to this tradition. His work is not always welcomed.
There are actual areas where I can't really go now because the threat is high. The threat is high. Phone threats, physical threats.
His visits to these rural areas are welcomed by those he has helped. Like this woman who regrets selling her 2 grandchildren. One of the girls, Happiness, has never been to school. She was sold off aged 3 and kept for 12 years. In the Cross River State capital, Calabar, campaigners want to stop this tradition.
By the time you meet with the government and the government says this is bad, this is wrong, going down there to get the people of the community, the stakeholders, the gatekeepers, the chiefs, to understand that money marriage is an evil practice, it's a crime against humanity, and they should end it. It's a big problem.
At home in the town of Abanliku, Pastor Richards and his family look after victims of child marriage. One of them, called Miracle, had been held captive. She was to replace 2 other sisters who had both been married off but died young. Miracle's future is now more secure. But for others, where money needs to be found or a debt paid, they are still destined to be married off young, living life as a prisoner of this tradition.
Now, reproductive rights in America continue to be a highly divisive issue. Last month, Planned Parenthood announced its withdrawal from Title X, a birth control program for low-income patients. It's due to a new requirement by the Trump administration that its providers cannot also offer abortions. By turning its back on funding, the organisation says it will not be able to care for many low-income women in rural areas. In the meantime, across the country, more than 20 anti-abortion measures have now been passed in 12 states in 2019 alone. Covering what is fast becoming a national battle zone is Politico reporter Alice Ollstein. She joins me now from Washington, DC. Alice, thanks for your time. How would you describe the state of reproductive rights in your country right now?
Well, it's very precarious. Now, since the new Supreme Court's conservative majority was put in place under the Trump administration, there's been a wide expectation that the Supreme Court will be willing to, if not overturn the right to have an abortion in the U.S., at least chip away at it. They haven't done so yet, but they will have ample opportunity in the years to come because, as you said, so many conservative states around the country have been emboldened by seeing the new Supreme Court seated, that they have passed more and more restrictive laws regarding abortions. Some of them are more narrow, banning abortions in certain circumstances. Some of them are very sweeping, banning all abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy or 8 weeks of pregnancy or 6 weeks of pregnancy, which is before many women even know they're pregnant. And none of those laws have been able to take effect so far. They're all sort of slowly making their way up through the federal court system to the Supreme Court.
And it seems to be taking a toll on some of the key actors. In July, Planned Parenthood fired its president, Leanna Wen, after less than a year in the job because she sought to treat abortion as a health issue, while others framed it more as a political fight. Tell me a bit more about what happened.
Sure. So this was a very interesting, tumultuous time for Planned Parenthood over this summer, both with the state of abortion rights in the country and their own internal leadership struggles. So they fired President Wen, and they have a new president in place. Wen, immediately upon being fired, wrote a public op-ed denouncing the organization and saying that they sought to prioritize political advocacy around abortion over being a healthcare provider. Now, other people at Planned Parenthood dispute that characterization. They say that their mission has to be both. They say that in a perfect world, yes, they could just be a healthcare provider and provide women with all of the services that are necessary, including abortion. But we don't live in that perfect world.
But how has her firing impacted the pro-choice movement?
So when she went public saying that Planned Parenthood cares more about advocating for abortion than being a healthcare provider, that gave a lot of fodder to anti-abortion groups who are always looking for ways to go after Planned Parenthood. And so they were able to point to that and say, see, this is what we've been saying all along. They're not a serious healthcare provider. They are just this abortion group. And they now have a lot of work to do to both rebuild from the internal organizational struggles. Also, as you said earlier, they lost a lot of federal funding recently by quitting the Title X family planning program. And so they have some financial deficits to make up. And so this is a very tough time. On the other hand, they're a very well-known organization. A lot of people on the left support them and want to support them financially. And so there will be, in the months ahead, just an ongoing sort of struggle to rebuild from the damage that many in the organization feel was done under the prior president.
Alice, as the issue becomes more and more divisive, is the country beginning to suffer from abortion fatigue?
I think that it's actually energizing both sides of this right now. You see a debate where, because like I said before, states are feeling emboldened to pass more and more extreme laws restricting abortions. In Alabama and Georgia, in Ohio, in a lot of states, you're seeing these sweeping abortion bans, banning abortion in almost all circumstances. And that has really fired up some moderate women voters who, for a long time, have sort of thought this issue was more or less settled. And now they're seeing, okay, maybe I do have to get involved. On the other hand, you have Republicans who are watching states like New York and Virginia debate and in some instances pass pro-abortion rights legislation expanding the right to seek an abortion. And they say, oh, that's far too extreme. They use a lot of inflammatory rhetoric about murdering babies, and that has really motivated folks on the right. And so I think because everyone just has their eyes locked on the Supreme Court right now, not knowing what, if anything, they may do, you're seeing a lot of this ramp up. The only way it's been tamped down, I think, is because Congress is not able to do anything in either way on this question. Because the Democrats control the House of Representatives and the Republicans control the Senate, it's a deadlock. You're not going to have pro-abortion rights legislation pass or anti-abortion legislation pass either.
Alice Ollstein, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much. Now, think of Indian women actors and you immediately think of Bollywood stars, glamorous, young and slender. But a theatre group in India, playfully named the Big Fat Company, is wanting to squash stereotypes when it comes to plus-size actors. They often get typecast and pigeonholed into less than stellar roles because of their looks. Camille Nedelec reports.
Well, I have maintained my big, fat body.
These actors have a radical message. Fat is beautiful. And bigger actors deserve roles just as good as the ones destined for their slimmer colleagues. Their frustration, always being the maid or the mother-in-law, and never the Juliet.
I don't feel bad to play an old character, but I'm also very capable of doing different things. They don't see me as an actor, they just see my body for the character.
At the Big Fat Company, there's only one male actor, and all of the players must be plus size. It's a chance to have free rein to explore the politics of gender, self-love and food, even if their performance can be challenging to the audience, who don't always get it.
Maybe it's uncomfortable to see plus-size people moving and enjoying their bodies and not necessarily looking like the, thin, toned dancer bodies that we're so used to seeing.
Bollywood has notoriously rigid beauty standards. Even the so-called most beautiful woman in the world, Aishwarya Rai, was fat-shamed after her appearance at Cannes in 2012. Big Fat Company says it's these types of attitudes, and not their kilos, that need to disappear.
And that's it for now. You can also connect with us via our Facebook page, that of course being France24.51%, or do send us a tweet at _51%. So until our next show, bye for now.